O Muslim sisters in Islam, women of the Sunnah, I advise you all to have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to fear Allah in open and in secret, when you're in public on the street or in the market, and when you are in private in your house by yourself or with your children. I advise you to have taqwa of Allah. This is the advice that you are given in the book of Allah in many places and in the sunnah of your Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I advise you with that, my sisters in Islam, saying to you that you are not like other women on this earth. You are not like other women in this dunya. You are women who uphold the sanctities of al-Islam. And you are the first teachers of the children. So you are a major foundation of the development of societies. They cannot exist and they cannot grow without you. You are a foundation of humanity. Without you, Muslims cannot succeed. So you play, and you actually in reality bear a major responsibility on your shoulders, my sisters in Islam. Especially you, O sisters of the Sunnah. Because you are a woman who stay away from innovation, and you stay away from shirk. You are a woman who return back to the book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam in times of differing. And so I advise you with the book of Allah, that in the book of Allah we are advised all together to ar-ruju' ila al-kitabi was sunnah, to return back to the Quran and Sunnah in matters of differing. My sisters in Islam, mothers of our children, daughters, and wives, you are women who must hold with yourselves deeply in your hearts and keep it rooted in your chests, that when you differ in a matter, you go back to the book of Allah. You go back to the Quran and back to the Sunnah. If you differ with your husband, or if you differ with your children, you return yourself back to the book and the Sunnah in matters of deen, and not back to liberalism, and not back to secularism, and not back to Western feminism, but you return back to the principles found in the Quran and in the Sunnah. And with this, the only way, my sisters in Islam, that you are able to do this is if you take a portion of your life to seek knowledge of your religion. Our women today suffer with anxiety and stress and other kinds of trouble, marital relation problems, and problems in the rearing of children. Without a doubt, there is difficulties in this life. But what will make it easy for you, my sisters in Islam, is to learn your religion so that you are able to return back to the book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because without a doubt, disunity, brothers and sisters, disunity among the Muslimin happens when they don't return back to the book and Sunnah. And marital discord happens when they don't return back to the book and Sunnah. The husband and wife have to see eye to eye on this principle, so that the sisters and the husbands and the wives and the children, there is a successful nourishment, cultivation of the families. Because societies start inside of every single household. So when one household makes itself good, and then a second household makes itself good, then you will have a community. It is the beginning of a community. When multiple homes get better, and they make islah of their nufus, they rectify their souls, then it begins a foundation for a community. And then when two communities, they make islah of their nufus, they rectify their souls, and they return back to the kitab and sunnah, then that starts to build a tiny society. The only way to do this, my sisters in Islam, is taqwa of Allah, and returning back to the book and sunnah, and knowing that you play a prime role in the cultivation and the tarbiyah of your awlad, of the children. The TV screens and the computer screens will never replace you. And they should never replace you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered in His book that you supplicate for your parents, saying, رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. And oh my Lord, have mercy on my two parents because they nurtured me when I was young. They both, my mother and father, cultivated me. They gave me tarbiyah when I was young. So the origin and the source of cultivation and tarbiyah and education comes from the parents, and the mothers are the first teachers of the children. So you play a major role, my sisters in Islam, as mothers to your children. You are the raisers of the next generation. What the next generation is going to be like, it is you. And as long as you allow the atheists and the polytheists and the major hypocrites deceive you and mislead you about Islam, or mislead you about the rights of Allah and His Messenger, and the rights of the husband, and the rights of humanity that are laid down in the book of Allah, by telling you these are not the true rights, and these are your rights, and telling you to be selfish, and to be a person that stands up in the face of everybody who speaks to you or gives you a command, then know for sure, my sisters, that you will not succeed. You won't succeed with Western liberalist secularism. It is the downfall of this very country. As we see those who know what goes on in this country and what is currently happening, those who are well aware of what's happening in this country, they know it's falling apart due to kufr and shirk and secularism and liberalism, polytheism and atheism, and not establishing any belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So why would you want to jump onto a ship that's sinking? My sisters in Islam, you play a major role. You also have a role with your husbands. They have rights over you and you have rights with them. Know your rights, my sisters in Islam, and that your husband does have rights over you. And you should treat him well. And you should share your pillow with him when he calls you to it. And you should give him what is due to him from the book and the sunnah. And you should not forget about this. And you should work hard. My sisters in Islam, laziness is your enemy. Laziness is not your friend. Sitting on your phones and tweeting and going on Facebook and wasting your time looking at things that are of no benefit for your deen, your dunya, or your akhirah. This leads to laziness and neglect of the obligations that are upon you. Laziness is not going to help you, so I advise you, my sisters in Islam, put your phones down and get off of the screens when you don't need them. Use that time wisely so that you can fulfill the rights that are due upon you. Otherwise, you will begin to neglect rights, and this is when oppression begins. You will neglect the rights of Allah. You will pray late and not on time. You will begin to do things of sin and transgression because the phones are a great fitna for humanity today. Once you turn on that screen, you will see things that are prohibited for you to look at. Once you turn on that screen, you will see things. If you go to the internet and the things that people talk about and write about on the internet, my sisters in Islam, they will say things to you that will be a devilish whisper, calling you to liberalism in their studies and their social sciences. The things that you read about education even. If you are not knowledgeable of your religion, those things will sway you and turn you away from the book of Allah. So you have to tread cautiously, my sisters in Islam. Ask Allah always. Seek refuge with Allah from laziness. Seek refuge with Allah in your sujood and in your days. Ask Allah to protect you from laziness and to give you strength and energy to fulfill the obligations that are due upon you, because the true Muslim woman is a strong woman when she dishes out the rights that are due, and the weak woman is the one who neglects that. She does not dish out those rights. My beloved sisters in Islam, look at Khadija, this beautiful example, and how she treated her husband when the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when revelation was first revealed to him, and Jibreel came to him in the cave, and he said, Iqra, several times. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam came back, and he was shaken up. He said, لَقَدْ خَشِيتُ عَلَى نَفْسِي. He said, I'm afraid for myself, to his wife. Look at how Khadija responds, the wife of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She said, كَلَّا أَبْشِرْ فَوَاللَّهِ لَا يُخْزِيكَ اللَّهُ أَبَدًا وَاللَّهِ إِنَّكَ لَا تَصِلُ الرَّحِمِ وَتَصْدُقُ الْحَدِيثِ وتحمل الكل وتكسب المعدوم وتقري الضيف وتعين على نوائب الحق. She said, no way. Rejoice. I swear by Allah, Allah would never humiliate you. By Allah, you join ties of relationship. You speak the truth. You bear people's burdens. You help the impoverished. You entertain guests, and you help against the difficult circumstances which affect the people. Look at this woman who consoles her husband in a time of difficulty. Be like this, my sisters in Islam. She is a role model for you. Not these foolish women that are jumping around like monkeys on television. This is your example. These are your examples. Look at how she consoles her husband. Look at her husnul dhan billah. By Allah, Allah would never humiliate you. Then she returns back to the sifat of the Prophet. Look at your characteristics. You're a person who does good. And we know from Allah that Allah gives good to those who do good. Look at the reliance on Allah, the trust on Allah, the consolation, the help and the comforting of the woman, the warmth that she offers to her husband. Then you look at some women, when the man comes home stressed, she just makes it harder on him. And she does nothing but gives him a headache while he's in need. You are a team, you and your husband. So know that you are together in this. And you are walking in this dunya together, holding hands in this, hoping to get to the hereafter. You are not enemies, like the secularists want you to think about yourselves, to destroy family units. And the liberalists and feminists, they hate their responsibilities because they couldn't bear them. They're not true women. That's why they became feminists, because they could not bear the responsibilities of a real woman. So they quit on it and they became feminists. True cowards, my sisters in Islam, while you are the brave women, you are the warriors.